I'm going to begin this reflection this morning with a short prelude. You have chosen this day, the 8th of September, as the founding day in which you commemorate your feast day, the feast of the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Just about 2 days before the 8th of September, a miracle happened. Our Archbishop was born. So if he was born on the 8th of September, he would have been called Anthony Mary. So he missed the chance. So happy birthday, Your Grace. Dear friends, it's a great joy as we gather this morning to celebrate your Silver Jubilee, the Silver Jubilee of the Daughters of St. Anne, Dosa as you call yourself. So the celebration takes place also in the context of the Jubilee year in the Universal Church, proclaimed by Pope Francis of blessed memory, to call on the whole church to reflect on the Jubilee of hope, that in hope all of us cannot be disappointed, in hope all of us are saved, and that our faith is really cemented on this hope, which is also the pillar of our own salvation. So this reminds that we are also called to be anchors, of hope in a society that is often characterized by great despair and hopelessness. Batu khabana misebetsi, malapa a teka, dintho di le tse dintsi ga di tsamaye sentle ka mo di tshwanetseng di tsamaeng ka teng. Uma sibheka ngala sibuye sibheke ngale, siyabona ukuthi into ezosindisa uNkulunkulu kuphela. Because if we didn't have God in our midst, because somebody was going to say we are tired of this. Somebody was going to say we are not going to endure this. The fact that we have peace is the blessed hope that God has given us, that in the midst of the little conflicts that we have here and there, we are still hopeful that God is in charge, yes, and that things will be different. And this is really the basis of this hope that we celebrate, today. And this reminds us that you and I are called today to become anchors ourselves and great agents of hope wherever the situation we find ourselves. We need to be able to say, to people we encounter, to say it shall be well, because history is in the hands of God. It shall be how history is in the hands of God. When Archbishop Buti Tahale founded the Sodality in 1983, with the others, his aim was to help to champion pastoral work among young women who wanted to belong to a sodality and had a special devotion to Saint Anne, the grandmother of Jesus. I see that it's a long time ago now. Some of you are not as young now. So this noble aim involved that young women participate in the evangelizing mission of the church without them feeling excluded by the demands that other sodalities were making on them. That young people had a space in the church and in the pastoral of the life to make a contribution, and to make, a contribution as young women in the church, no matter the circumstances that were. And this vision already was speaking to us of mercy, was speaking to us of hope, was also speaking to us of somebody who was able to identify that we do not have to write anybody off in life. Every one of us is called by God and has a contribution to make, no matter what their state of life, their circumstances, and their situation. And God calls each one to serve us, to serve Him, no matter who we are. And therefore we should not always count and look at the challenges that we face. We must always look at the Lord who calls us to serve Him as we are. There is no better place to teach us discipleship than to learn from the Blessed Virgin Mary. She is present in the life of Jesus to the end. In fact, she accompanies Him. You know, she gives birth to Him. She participates in His mission, and even at the end on the cross, she is also there. Mary is that synodal woman who has the courage to listen to her Son, Jesus, and is never tempted to usurp the will of God and make it her own. And listen carefully to this. I'm saying she's a synodal woman. What do we do in the synod? In the synod we journey together. In the synod we listen to one another. In the synod we listen to God. Yes. In other words, first of all, we listen to God who wants to make His will known in our situation, in our church, in the circumstances of our time today. And then we also listen to God who speaks to all of us. And Mary was that synodal woman who listens to God. When she was told that, you know, she would conceive a son, the only thing she asked God is that, how is that possible? She never actually protested these. She never protested this and said, yeah, well, it's not possible. She just said, how is that possible? Because she knew who she was and she knew her circumstances. She did not rebel against God. She wanted to clarify, you know, what was happening in God. Yeah, umangabe kuthi kuyenzeka kuwe kuthi uzithola ukhulelwe akuyena umoya oqwebileyo ikhona intshebe behind ezazoziveza umangabe ayikakaveli. But she knew that God was active and present in her own life, and therefore the first thing she did was to listen to God. She was open to God because she was a woman of humility who's open to be used by God as His instrument. So the celebration of the birth of Mary's birth on September 8 serves as a reminder of her role in the divine plan of salvation. As the mother of Jesus, her life is deeply intertwined with the mystery of Christ's incarnation. By honoring her nativity, the Church acknowledges the beginning of the fulfillment of God's promises to send a Savior to the world. So the feast of the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary is more than just a celebration of her birth. It reflects a unique place in God's plan for humanity. And this celebration reminds us, the faithful, of the grace-filled life of Mary and her role as Mother of God. And therefore September 8th is a day to honor her, to rejoice in her birth, but also to reflect on the profound impact she has on the Christian faith. Actually, Pope Francis added 3 more titles to the honor of Our Lady. He added these 3 titles. She is the Mother of Mercy, she is the Mother of Hope, and the Solace of Migrants. In a sense that Mary continues each day, you know, to teach us, you know, about what we need to learn to become proper disciples of God. So today, there are many images of Mary that we get into the Bible. People often talk to us about Mary as a woman of silence, that she doesn't, like Joseph, say much. But today I want to reflect with you on Mary, you know, as the icon of empowerment. Even though she doesn't say much, in the Bible, there are many, many, many things that she says that go unnoticed. Mother Mary, icon of empowerment. What does Mary do? Even though she doesn't do, many things. The first thing that actually she says the first time, there are 5 things she says. The first thing she says is during the Annunciation. How is it possible since I am a virgin? Mary spoke less, but in her silence and contemplation, she accomplished unimaginable and great things in the history, of salvation. She was a woman of courage, tenacity, strength, and immense faith. She doesn't just she accepts the will of God, but she wants to understand from God, how is this? So you today are also called to be women of courage, who are not just only paralyzed by silence when you are faced with situation. Bomme ba ileng horeng ba na le sebete sa go bolela, bomme ba ileng horeng ba sukota burno luku ba bona burna situation le ilaba ka kur ba bula ba yima imilenge ba bula ba ku asifalele kur swata. And that is what Mary was. She was a woman of courage, not protesting, but she wanted to understand the will of God. Many of us encounter difficult situations in our own lives. We should not just only be people who ask questions, but we should, in asking that question, grow to understand the will of God and its implications for my life and how I can remember. Mary was chosen by God, and that was very clear in her own understanding of God. In Luke 1:28 and 30, we find these words that come from the angel. You have found favor with God. So God is not acknowledging Mother Mary for what she has done. She is hailed by God even before she has done anything. God looks at a person and God says, you are important. It is not age, degrees, qualifications, or positions that God is searching for in a person. God simply appreciates the person, and in the case of Mary, her humility, her simplicity, her docility, and intimacy with the divine. So God is ever in search of such humble and unassuming person. And humility makes us fit into the dream of God, and therefore become ourselves an example of hope that things can change in my life because of faith and prayer. So modimo ga re batle ka baka la gore go na le se ileng re tlo mo fa so. Modimo o re batla ka lebaka la gore go na le dimpho tse ileng gore morena modimo o batla gore a tla ka tsona, go na le dimpho tse ileng gore morena modimo o re se go faditse ka tsona, go na le dimpho tse ileng gore morena modimo o batla re tsamaise mmuso wa ga. And gore mafelong go tle go bona le mang, go tle go bona le morena modimo mo ditirong tsa rona. Re songo pha muthu a tshi amba tshiri ya ba bona dzangano heli lo hula nganga lavan la swika hapa ndi mishumo yanga ndoita mini ndaita mini litani ya mishumo ye ndaita le rena re tletse litari ya ditiro tsa rona re a itshebeletsa na go ba re tshebeletsa morena modimo. And a jubilee a re rute ho rona re ka mo letsogong la morena modimo jwale ka letsopa. Morena modimo wa re aga, wa re sebedisa, wa re tsamaisa gore tiro tsa gagwe di bonagale, lebitso la gagwe e nne lona le ileng gore la godisiwa, not our own name. The second time that we had the Blessed Virgin Mary speak. She says, I am the handmaid of the Lord in Luke 1:38. She is a woman of submission. When she submits, God protects her, and he says to Joseph, this is your wife. And that's very important. She submits. She knows or no, I am not involved in this. She could have said, no, I'm not going to take your path. But she submits. And then when she submits, God immediately at that time protects her. He says to Joseph, this is your wife. And Joseph would not even have that courage to say, no, and Joseph had that, because that was the way in which God protects us. So when we submit ourselves to God, God will also protect us. God will protect our plans. God will lead and guide our plans. Because Mary was a strong, assertive, self-confident, well-informed and socially active woman. And her yes was unconditional and in every situation. How many blessings have we missed just because we hesitated to say yes to the will of God? Our yes in small and ordinary little things can make a difference in our relationship with God. And God doesn't want many things from me. Morena modimo o batla fela selo se seng ya ka, ya me, ina yanga, ya mina. That's what God is asking. The third time in the song of the Magnificat in Luke 1:46-55, she is concerned about the neighbor and she praises God. Great women serve with love and generosity. When she heard that Elizabeth needed her, Mary rushed to that. So we are called also to be people who are not just coming into the church, ukare reako McDonald, reapatela rifumana paket ya runa dijora tsamaya. We need to be women who are deeply penetrated by the spirit of generosity and service. And women who also, as the Archbishop said at the beginning, who are women of prayer, but also women of praise. Because in the Magnificat, you can see that Mary challenges us to realize that God is in control and we need to trust God. So first of all, she serves, but also she intercedes for Elizabeth. So you and I need to understand that we are also called in our role also to be intercessors. The fourth time, Mary speaks in the temple of Jerusalem, your father and I have been searching for you. Luke 2:45. So God is found in our search. And this search leads to salvation. Remember that Mary was searching for Jesus. And then she found that he was in these, crowd. But he was actually speaking with great men in the temple, the teachers of the law and all. But she was searching for him. You have to be women who search. They are lost. We should search for them. They are lost. Many of our children who are lost in substance abuse, in drugs and alcohol. Many of our young people who are lost, in many things that enslaves them. And you are called today as you celebrate the Jubilee, to be women in search and to search for the lost. And the lost are not only those who do not pray. There are many of us who have lost the prayer, but many of us have also lost many things. And we are called to become women and men in search. of God, and God is found in our search, and this search must always lead us to our salvation. The fifth time, it's in the wedding at Cana. I get a Harry Chaisha Mori law on a wedding in Cana. Do whatever he tells you. So Mary is a model disciple. Do whatever he tells you. Let God's will be actualized in our lives. We have to choose God's way, not just what we like. Bophelo ha se le thabo fela. The Archbishop will not have to be formed to perform a miracle to change water into wine, because it didn't see the leading somewhere. But we need to understand that in our lives we are not doing our will but the will of God. Maybe you may be running out of wine in your own life. You might be running out of the wine of prayer, the wine of service, the wine of joy, the wine of peace, the wine of love. This is an invitation today that you become like Mary. Listen to God and also listen to others. You see, the listening to God and listening to others comes back again in the story at the wedding of Cana. The others go to Mary with the concern they have no wine. And she goes to Jesus, she says, they have no wine. We do not need to listen to one another to build. Mekhato ya rona is torn apart sometimes by this lack of ability to listen to others, the lack of ability to work with others, the lack of ability to be humble and to accept others' point of view. No matter who lingila how kile linyane jwang ralebata hobane o omong wa rona mo khatlo o aha ke batho ba ileng hore bana le eng one mind and also one heart. Dipelo tsa rona le menagano ya rona, they are in one place to build. Re tshwanetse hore re tsebe hore ha re le jana, the Blessed Virgin Mary would also intercede for us. She will say, they have no wine. Ka hore re bangwe re etsa dilo tse dingwe, re batla ho aha dilo tse di pila, re batla ho dira, they have no wine. John Bosco reminds us that Mary intercedes on our behalf. She can never say, I cannot, because she is God's mother. She will never say, I will not, because she is our mother. In our challenges, in our problems, we need to go to the Blessed Virgin Mary and ask her to intercede for us. Therefore, Mary is a pilgrimage who suffered the ups and downs of human life. And in all the unfairness of life, she remained faithful to the will of God. That's Mary is a mentor, a model, and a fearless woman of every age. As we thank the Lord for her birthday today, let us also continue to strive to be more like her in all things, in faith, hope, and love, now and always. I want to end with this story. An old story is told about someone who is searching for meaning of life, who wanders in the heart of a holy hermit in a forest. The hermit offers his guest tea, and he keeps pouring tea into the cup until it is overflowing. The guest watched the overflow until he could no longer restrain himself. Stop! The cup is full. no more will go in. And the hermit replied, like this cup, you are full of your own opinions, preconceptions and ideas. How can I teach you unless you first empty your cup? As we celebrate this Jubilee, let us empty our cup, because the Synod also challenges us to be a different church to what we are already used. So let us empty our cup so that God can fill us.